Welcome to another LinkedIn Sites. As always, I am super appreciative and excited for my guests, and today is definitely not an exception. We have Porsche Mystique Steele with us, and I like to start out at the beginning with the simple things like who are you and what do you do?
Hi. Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. My name is Porsche Mystique. I am an award winning book coach, TEDx speaker, independent publishing expert, and the CEO of Mystique Rose Publishing Services. And what do? I help business leaders and CEOs combine their story and their wisdom into a book to publish highly impactful books that generate income, influence, and elevates them to thought leadership.
Wow, that's amazing, and that's quite a lot that you do. Let me. I like to break it down. Of course, I'm obsessed with stories, so the fact that you combine their story and wisdom, I think, is fantastic. What would you say is the problem that you're solving for those clients? You know, the problem isn't I want to write a book. I don't think. What's the real problem that you're trying to solve?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem that a lot of CEOs have is their inability to really establish their credibility, right? Everybody wants to be that massive CEO that the world knows. And it just doesn't happen for so many business owners. And it doesn't happen because your credibility is not established. And we talk about thought leadership. I mean, when you can really classify yourself as a thought leader, it means that you went above and beyond what people are doing in your industry, and you have this innovative way of thinking, doing, or being. And that's a problem that people tend to have in their businesses, is that they're simply not able to showcase that innovation. They're not able to let the world know that they're pretty damn great. So a book really helps with that. It establishes your credibility, it expands your thought leadership, and then of course there's always the additional revenue streams.
Well, as someone who's about to release a book, I hope all those things you said are true. um, but I think there's definitely some. Now, you say CEOs. I have two questions about your kind of ideal customer or client.
Mhm.
So, is there a ideal CEO in terms of the size of their company? Is it only CEOs? Tell me more about who your ideal client is.
I definitely prefer to work with business owners who have been in their industry for 5 or more years. It's really important to me because at that point, those types of individuals understand that they are an expert in what they do. I don't really work well with people who have to question whether they are amazing at what they do. So I found that business owners who have been in their businesses for over 5 years are really sure about themselves, who they are, and what they stand for.
Amen. I don't know why I felt like saying that, but it seemed like the so, as a business owner, I think you need to be in business a little bit to have that expertise, and then also I think it's really important to recognize it, embrace it, which I don't think everyone always does, and I think it's really important that people understand. You know a lot. You know, you've been in business in your area. You know a lot more than you may think, um, and a business book can definitely help that. I'm a big fan of business books as well as business podcasts. So I wanted to ask if you can name, I know this may be hard considering you help a lot of people write their books, but can you name a business book that you think was worth the time that people should go and read?
Well, I hate to say this particular book because I don't like reading books. I don't like recommending books that are trending because I feel like everybody recommends those books. But this is one of those books that's really trending that I think can really help people. And that's $100 million offers. I know Alex Hormozy recently did $100 million leads, but you got to start with $100 million offers before you jump into $100 million leads, because you have to know who he is and why he wrote the book the way he wrote the book. Besides him, my book, I mean, come
I was
on.
going to ask that next. So why don't we share about what's the title of your book and why should people go read it?
Yes, the CEO author, A Business Owner's Guide to Expanding Your Thought Leadership with a Book. I definitely wrote this book in a way that was, putting you on the court of your life, your career, your business. You're not sitting in the stands. You're not playing games. You're not playing small. I wanted to show business owners exactly what they need to do and what they need to understand to create that book, and then leverage that book in their business to expand that business, 10x it, if you will, and really expand their thought leadership.
I love it. And I don't have it in my hands, but I have it very close. So I'm excited about that. Now, this is another tricky question. So we're LinkedIn Live as well as YouTube, but can you name a LinkedIn connection you're really happy you have, of course, aside from me?
I was going to say you, man, because...
Can't say me. You got to think of somebody else.
Okay. A LinkedIn connection that I'm really happy to have. Does it have to be somebody that I haven't connected with outside of LinkedIn?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Because I think the it has to be Elaine Powell. It has to be Elaine Powell. Working with her changed almost every aspect of my life in ways that I didn't think possible. So Elaine Powell is what I like to call a TEDx expert. She considers herself, she's a keynote speaker and a thought disruptor. But I always say she's a TEDx speaker. She got me on the TEDx stage, but working with her changed the way I see myself, the way I see my business, the way I see my marriage. Like, it was crazy to see the level of transformation that I experienced in working with her for, 7 to 8 months.
Yeah. And again, I think the thing is results. She helped you get on TEDx stage, and that's kind of, if people are looking to go on TEDx stage, I know Lynn as well, and she's amazing. And I think it's, a lot of people talk about it, and sometimes you need a guide to help you get there. And that's what Elaine, exactly what she is, plus a lot more. So my book is it's called The Content Beast, and it's about content marketing. So I like to ask questions related to content marketing. So what's your favorite type of content to consume from brands in general?
To consume? That's a good question. I like consuming reels. I do. I like short form videos for sure. But when it comes to LinkedIn, I'm a sucker for storytelling. I like the long form stories that people post, maybe with a picture, maybe not. When it doesn't have a picture, LinkedIn won't allow it to appear on my feed for whatever reason. But I don't need a picture as a consumer. I just want the story. And so I really love long form stories or long form posts, if you will. And
I would just add, I obviously am obsessed with story and the power that it has. And I think the best way to tell a story is a visual story. So I like even long form video can be a way, but I think it's about, you start with a story, and however it's the person shares it, that can be digested by someone to get the lesson, or just to be entertained, or whatever it may be. It's really important to find a way to communicate effectively, and story is the best way to do that for sure.
Absolutely.
And then on the flip side, so what's your favorite kind of content to create?
Funny enough, I hate recording reels.
Okay.
I do. I think my favorite type of content are, I don't know what you call them, but they're the little tiny posts that just have up to 10 words. And it's really just random. And it probably has nothing to do with my business, but it was just on my mind and I wanted to say it.
Yeah, what I like about those, and I don't know who came up with, someone talks about these posts as being snackables, and think that they're like little snacks that you can, content snacks. And since I talk about the content piece always being hungry, you got to sometimes feed them little snacks. And so I think, those things are really, we have short attention spans, and so the ability to get something really quickly. And I also like the idea that you're talking about, it's not always just about business, because we're people first. And I always like the idea, and I wish I have to go find out who kind of coined this idea, but you have B2C and B2B. But what I heard once that I really thought was cool, which is it's all H to H, human to human. Yeah, I gotta figure out who to credit that to. But the idea is that that it's a person, and so when you're sharing content that's not about the business but about yourself, I think that there's also ways that helps connect to people in ways that maybe not saying about the latest business trend or business thing. Sometimes personal things that you can relate to business are really powerful. So I love that.
I definitely agree with that. The whole idea that it is human to human, because that's the type of content I like creating. Like, I know I have to do the business stuff, but my favorite is just to do random, like I'm just chilling, I'm watching this new series on Netflix, or I'm brushing my teeth in the bathroom and an idea hits me or a thought comes across and I'm like, I want to put that on. And my content manager is like, no.
I'll share with you James Ribalata, who's a friend and a professional speaker, uses this distinction, and I've used it a lot, which is the difference between credibility, which everyone's like, oh my God, I have to prove, and relatability. And people are always trying to figure out how to be credible when really what people want is to make sure that you're relatable. And so I think when you're being personal, you're much more relatable than talking about whatever the latest business thing is. And so I think there's definitely a need for that. And it's also hard to share something personal that's not authentic. And since people always want authenticity, I think it's a powerful thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't share business things, but I think if you tell personal stories that can highlight some business lessons or things like that, go for it. I think, because again, if it's a great story, it'll resonate and it will connect with them and be relatable.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna tell you said that. I was like, listen, Jeffrey said that I can do it. So
well, try it out and see what people think. When you see people are responding to those, that's the end of the day. I haven't. My next vlog is probably going to be about me going to my daughter's whiteout game at Penn State. So what is that? Now there will be a lesson in there about brand and things, believe it or not.
right.
But I think again, it's important to meet people where they are. Be yourself. As Oscar Wilde says, be yourself. Everyone else is taken. I think that's important for people. Yeah, he's a clever boy. Okay, and then let's talk about the challenge. So what is your biggest challenge in creating consistent and valuable content?
I think for me, the thing that I really struggled with was really meeting my audience where they're at. I know that I'm an expert on book publishing, right? And so that's the information that I want to share. Well, how do you dive into telling a story that resonates or that teaches? How do you share your expertise? But what I had to learn was that my audience isn't quite there yet. They're at the very beginning. They don't even recognize that a book is the answer. So I realized that I was jumping too far ahead. And I had to bring it back. And that was quite difficult for me. I didn't want to do that first and foremost. And I felt like I didn't know how to do that. Like, how do I explain to somebody, to my ideal client, that you definitely need a book? How do I do that in short form content that resonates with them? I'm only just now learning how to do that. And I've been, really doing the research with my team to figure that out. But it's still a challenge. I'm still trying to tackle that.
And it goes back to, my 11th commandment, which is know thy audience. And again, so it's not just thinking about what you want to share, but understanding what is it that's going to resonate with them. Because even though you may have some great tips, if it's not connecting with your audience, then you're just spinning your wheels, And so I think, and I also think one thing about it depends on where they are in the journey. So people talk a lot about the sales journey and where people are, and kind of top of the funnel. I think it's about, well, wait, where are they when you first engage with them? You can give different kind of content there than you can if you've been, working with them, or they've gone through some of the other things of your content. Now you can be like, okay, you're on board now. Let's dive a little deeper. And so I think it's a matter of recognizing where they are in the process. Can also really help.
And I think also because I want to give too much information. Am I allowed to quote your book?
You can quote my book for sure. You're the first time someone's done it. It's not even out yet, but go ahead.
I know, right?
Launch partners.
Sorry. Okay. Well, I just want to let you guys know. No, there's a part in the content piece that talks about infobesity. And that really resonated with me because I feel like, people have this craving to consume all of this information, but I think it's also flipped. I have this craving to just give you, I'm such an enabler in terms of infobesity that I just want to keep feeding you until you just burst, and I think because I have that craving to give so much information, it actually hurts my engagement. Right. So that was something that I had to unlearn or undo.
Yeah, I think in terms of that piece of knowing that there's so much out there that people can, are overwhelmed every day, all day with the amount of content. Partly, one of the things that you do well, and what you ascribe to, is that story, because the story is a disruptor, and a story is going to be memorable in ways that just sharing information is not. And so I think that's where you're starting, is because you're helping people create that story so that they can become that thought leader. And it's not just about the numbers. The numbers are important, but it's about how do you integrate that into a story, because a story is the shortest distance to connect with someone. And so when you think about the content you're creating, if you're doing it in the right way, you can feed them those little snackable bites or those longer bites, as long as it's going to be something that's going to connect with them, which is why it's so important to know them. But yeah, I think it's really important. And as someone who's just gone through the process of writing a book, I've always believed that if you want to be a thought leader, having a book is amazingly important. But one of the other things I learned is it's not a solo expedition. You need someone, a guide, to help you go through it, because I am not an expert at publishing. I'm not an expert at writing a book. And so getting that expertise from someone who does it like yourself is the only way I think that you're going to do it well. And I think a lot of people, struggle and kind of stumble through writing a book, and maybe you get it out, and maybe you don't. I heard a statistic that 80 some odd % of people want to write a book, and 3% actually get it over the finish line. And I think a lot of the reason that more don't is because they don't have the support and the resources and the expertise of someone like yourself to help them do that.
Absolutely. That is my favorite statistic, and I use it all the time. And I tell people, like, are you in that 3%? And they get excited. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, here's how you do it. And they're like, no. Because it's not easy.
You gotta put in the work.
You gotta put in the work. It's not easy. But anybody who's willing to take it seriously and understand that a book isn't just this thing that you created. It's not just a passion project, but it's a tool. It's almost like a Swiss Army knife. There's so much you can do with a book and your business, for your career, for your legacy, that not having one and doing it the right way. Okay. So many people have books and it's just like this little screw. It's not doing anything. It's just hanging around. But if you could create the Swiss Army knife of your book, it'll change everything.
I love that. My final question for you, Porsche, is, so I produce animation, among other things, and I love animation. So I wanted to ask you, who's your favorite one of your favorites? Because I know sometimes it's hard to pick, but one of your favorite animated characters.
Sorry.
Oh, now I'm excited.
Oh man. Okay, I think who is my favorite animated character? Okay, I have several, right, in different categories. So there's one animated character that I would just like, if I could grow up to be this animated character, I would be so happy. You see the typing. Okay. Phineas from Phineas and Ferb. You know the show.
Yes.
I love me some Phineas. That guy is incredible. He's awesome. He's amazing. I want to grow up to be Phineas.
I love it. Well, Porsche, this is awesome, and I wish you well in your pursuit of becoming Phineas, among other things. And if anyone is looking to explore writing a book, please get in touch with Porsche. She is a phenomenon and will help you get there. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time, your energy, your insights, and it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. This was fun.